let's talk some more about Omega level mutants. Welcome to I'm Your Target Demographic. I'm Adam Ryan Daniels, and today we are continuing the discussion about Omega level mutants. This is part 2, so if you haven't already watched my first video on Omega level mutants, I would watch that. In my first video, I talk about a handful of mutants that either have been said that they're Omega level or they have powers that are consistent with what seems to be considered Omega level. And a lot of people are commenting they have very strong opinions about a lot of other characters. So I thought now would be a cool time to talk about people they've suggested, people I missed, and what criteria people use to define what an Omega level mutant is. So how do we define Omega level? The first thing that seems to be pretty consistent among a few of these mutants is that they can affect other people on a genetic level. So they can make changes to their personality, their appearance, they can break them into pure energy, they can affect people on a deep level. An example of this is Elixir, who can change people's personalities, heal them of genetic ailments, things like that. The second thing is some powers that impact the entire planet, or they have powers that reach into different universes, dimensions, kind of it's beyond their immediate location. An example of this is Iceman, who could potentially destroy the world by creating a new ice age. Or Franklin Richards, who can create a universe. Much bigger in scale, but both of them considered Omega. The third type of ability that might be considered Omega for a lot of people is the ability to control essentially life and death. So these are people that can resurrect others, like the Phoenix, or they're able to come back to life. Somehow, life and death don't mean as much to these people. The ability to heal themselves from an extreme wound sometimes falls in this category as well, so characters like Vulcan, where he could be on the edge of death and able to bring himself back to strength. A lot of healers aren't Omega level, but there's a few like Vulcan, Elixir, things like that that are Omega level. So that's kind of the scope of powers that we're talking about. Some Omega level mutants meet several of those criteria, some only meet one, some barely meet one, but that's kind of what we're working with. And then there's the question raised of how well they can control those powers. I believe the degree of control doesn't necessarily dictate if they're Omega level or not. I believe someone with incredible power but very little control over it could still be considered Omega level. Characters like Legion, where he is able to kind of create all these mutant abilities, but he's not always in control of what he's doing. Same thing with Franklin Richards, who is beyond a doubt one of the most powerful beings kind of in this mythology, but he's a kid and he doesn't always know what he's doing. He created a universe by accident. So I don't think the degree of control really matters. Of course they're going to be more powerful if they have an incredible power and they're able to control, every little aspect of that power. That's great, but I don't think someone with no control is kind of disqualified from this list. And like everything else on this list, you can choose to disagree with me if you don't think that's the case. So now, for the rest of this video, we're going to talk about mutants that people have brought up, people I've discovered on lists that I somehow missed, and we're going to kind of talk out, should they not be. A lot of these there isn't a clear-cut answer because Omega level is such a weird classification. There's not an easy list you can just go look at. So a lot of this is my 2 cents, but I love feedback. I love to see people talking in the comments about, right on, that's totally true, or no, that person should not be, or yes, here's why they should. So if you disagree with any of this, head down to the comments and join in on the conversation. So I'm going to start with some easy ones. A few people have brought up Quicksilver. I think mostly because in Days of Future Past, the movie, he was incredibly kind of overpowered compared to a lot of people in that film, where it was like they had to not have him in most of the movie because he would have been able to solve everything super easily. But the ability to run fast is by no definition Omega level. Anyone with any sort of telepathy, telekinesis, they could, wherever he is, however fast he's going, stop him in his tracks. Lift him up off the ground and he ain't going anywhere. He also has no, a normal gunshot wound would take him out. There's nothing there not Omega level. A lot of people also bring up the villain Onslaught. But Onslaught is not a mutant. So really he doesn't belong on this list. He is very powerful, yes, but he is a psionic being created from the minds of Professor Xavier and Magneto. So he's not a mutant, he's just not. So obviously not a Omega level mutant. Next up we have a lot of people talking about Thanos. Probably again because the movies, it's kind of in our mainstream consciousness now. Thanos is he's not a human, so he's another species. He might be a mutant of that species, but still not Omega level mutant. And most of his skills probably come from his time with the Infinity Stones, and so it's debatable how much power he really has. Regardless, not a mutant, shouldn't be on the list. Now we're going to get into the ones that actually require some thought, some debate. I'm going to start with Proteus. Proteus, or Kevin McTaggart, is a mutant that is able to kind of not exist in the physical realm. He's made of pure energy, kind of floats around, but he needs physical bodies to kind of exist in as a host. And as he lives in these bodies, he kind of burns them out and then has to move on to another body. So that's a significant weakness. Proteus is able to warp reality around him, which is kind of why his ability is, by some, considered to be Omega level. He can change reality to his whim. But he has some very significant weaknesses. The first being that metal disrupts his energy. That metal can hurt him. So he was defeated by the mutant Colossus, which is awesome. He was also defeated by Magneto. So yes, he's pretty powerful, but he has this glaring weakness, and even the ability to change reality isn't on its own necessarily Omega level. I mean, there's a lot of people that can kind of play with reality and change things, but it's not always permanent, and it's not always wide-reaching. So because he has such a huge glaring weakness, and because warping reality is kind of on the fence, this is that Omega level, I'm going to say no to Proteus. But again, I appreciate debate. So if you know stories where Proteus did incredible things that were permanent, that really changed the world or people around him, definitely comment and let me know, but I'm saying no. There's also an argument for the mutant Rogue, because Rogue is able to touch people and steal their powers. Now the argument for her being Omega level is that she can gain powers, and she can gain supposedly an unlimited amount of powers. That's powerful, yes. She also recently took Wonder Man's powers, and Wonder Man doesn't have a physical body either, he's kind of made of this energy, so she now kind of doesn't need to exist in a physical body, from what I understand. And seemingly she's now immortal because she doesn't need food, water, sustenance of any sort, as long as she has those powers. So she's pretty powerful. That's the argument for her being Omega level. But the opposite argument against her being Omega level is that, one, it relies on who's around her. So she has to see and go to and touch someone that has a power, and then it's usually temporary, so it is not a permanent change. She also, when she takes someone's power, she takes their memories, their kind of personality traits, and that can get you really messed up. That when she takes Storm's powers, she's now claustrophobic, and she's imagining things, and she's freaking out. And so there's major drawbacks to having more and more powers. So if she were to permanently take powers from people, she would permanently take those traits, those weaknesses as well, and would probably just lose it. So a few people have commented that Rogue's abilities are kind of like Legion, so why would Legion be on the list and not Rogue? Because Legion creates mutations. It's not dependent on someone that already has that mutation. He also creates them when it suits him. So I need this to happen, so I'm going to create this mutation. He also creates a personality that's assigned to it to control those powers. That he's not battling with 20 personalities in his head. He says, right now, this is it. This is who I am. It is this multiple personality thing, but it's not all of them battling at once. Yes, they both would kind of be crazy. But Legion, it's much more convenient and powerful to create a mutation as opposed to finding someone that has it and taking it. So I agree that Rogue is very powerful and has the ability to take a lot of powers and be this dominating force, but is she Omega level? No. The weaknesses far outweigh the pros when you get to a certain level. She's gonna just lose it, not be able to focus, not be able to control her powers. I would say not Omega level. We also had a few people that wanted to talk about the mutant Exodus. Exodus is a old mutant, kind of who was found by Apocalypse a long time ago, and kind of tinkered with. So Apocalypse made him more powerful than he maybe originally was. He served with Apocalypse for a while, then he rebelled against Apocalypse, then he served Magneto. He's always kind of a second-in-command kind of character for a while. He has a lot of powers, most notably an incredible sense of telekinesis. You know, he can lift like 100 tons. He can do incredible things. He's durable. His skin is unpierceable. So he's heavy duty. He can do a lot offensively. Very strong force to deal with. He has this thing that's called life force vampirism, which is essentially he can leech energy, like steal life force from people, which is crazy cool and terrifying. So yes, he's an offensive powerhouse. But on the scale of being Omega level, the ability to leech life force is about as close as that comes, but it's not coming back from the dead. It's not affecting anyone on like a cellular level. He doesn't have anything that really impacts the world or universes or anything. So I would say he's strong, but I would say that he's probably not Omega level. But Exodus is one of the characters that I'm least familiar with. So if you know a story about Exodus where he demonstrated abilities that were beyond just being strong and lifting things and kind of sucking the life from people, if there's scenarios that I didn't catch, definitely let me know in the comments because I'm not super educated on Exodus. Now, probably the most hotly debated Omega level mutant, or should I say potential Omega level mutant, is Storm. Now, as I browsed message boards and I was looking for people's thoughts on Omega level mutants, Storm is the one that has people on both extremes. There's people that say clearly no, clearly not. But then there's people that absolutely love Storm to a degree that I didn't see with any other mutants that I was looking up. They love Storm, and so they will fight you until the day you die to get Storm classified as Omega level. But here's the thing. I would say Storm is powerful, but Omega level, I'm going with no, and here's why. People make the comparison that if Iceman is Omega level, she can do what he can do, right? He can kind of cause an ice age, so can she. But can she? I mean, here's the thing. Her ability is to control the weather. Iceman's ability is to control the temperature around him, which is different. She can create a blizzard, and she can eventually, I guess, create a big enough blizzard that might cover the whole world, but it's not the same as Iceman. Iceman also has the factor that he can be destroyed and come back together again. He can turn into moisture and reform. So he's much more durable and able to withstand damage than Storm would be. Storm, someone could shoot. They could punch. She has no way of healing. She has no way to survive things like that. So she's not immortal. She can't withstand a lot of damage. And she has no powers that affect really worldwide. Yes, I guess she could create weather across the world that might make it a little cold. Now, why people think that she's an Omega level mutant, and this is why it's so hotly debated, is that there was one reference from the psychic supergiant, who's one of kind of Thanos' lackeys or whatever, who said, uh-oh, here comes some Omega level mutants, right? And they were talking about Iceman and Rachel Summers, both of whom I talked about in the last video. And the Storm was with them. And so the three of them kind of got attacked. That's it. I don't know if that was intended to be all of them, if she was lumped in with that. Fans of Storm also bring up that she can not only do cold, but she can also do heat, and she could light the world on fire, and people are saying things like that. I couldn't find anything like that. You know, I see a lot of tornadoes and a lot of blizzards, lightning, things like that, but I've never seen her create fire or use that in a major way. And even if she could, there's nothing in kind of the classification of Omega level that means they can deal a lot of damage. There's a lot of people that can do that, and none of them are on this list. So I would say you're allowed to like Storm. She can be your favorite. My favorite is Colossus, but he's nowhere near Omega level. That's okay. So powerful, yes. Omega level, no. My 2 cents. And now we're going to talk about two of the most notable people in the X-Men mythology, starting with Professor Xavier. He is a telepath, meaning he can read minds, he can sometimes control people, he can move his consciousness to another body if he were killed, which is kind of cool, but that's about it. He is a powerful telepath, but not Omega level. Transferring your consciousness to another body is not the same as resurrection. It's not the same as coming back to life. I mean, he can read minds and attack people that way, but not super strong offensively. He has a lot of weaknesses, like stairs. That was a low blow. I'm sorry. I just found that picture and I just had to put it there. But he has no way to affect people on a molecular level. He has no way to affect the world as a whole, anything regarding time and space, none of that. So I'm going to say Professor X, super cool, not Omega level. And then the other one that is fairly well known is Magneto. And a lot of people have this debate over, is Magneto Omega level? And for the same reasons kind of as Professor X, I would say no. That he is powerful, but he has no way to really affect people on a deep level, except for Wolverine when he ripped his adamantium out. That's cool, but that is not Omega level. Yes, he can destroy Apocalypse and spread his bits across the world or whatever, but he has the same weaknesses as anyone else. He has no way to heal himself or come back to life or change people on really a deep level. He has nothing regarding space and time. Cool, powerful, not Omega level. And now we've got a trio. The first one is Cable. I talked about Cable in my video about X-Force and the potential movie or TV series that might be coming out, hopefully soon. But Cable is a telepath and telekinetic. He's very powerful. He is the son of Cyclops and a clone of Jean Grey named Madeline Pryor. They had a son. He grew up and then time traveled back to our universe. Super simple. And he's very powerful, but he's infected with this techno-organic virus that is slowly taking over his body. So he has to expend so much energy to stop this virus from taking over. If he didn't have to deal with that, he might be much more powerful. And I believe in the comics now he no longer has this virus, so he has a lot of potential to be Omega level. The second in this trio is a clone of Cable named Stryfe. Similar things, very powerful, telepath, able to read, control minds, telekinetic, super powerful. The third in the trio is kind of a version of Cable from another timeline that is somehow shifted and brought into our universe. Again, I say our like we're there. Brought into their universe. And so he's called Nate Gray, or X-Man. So he is a version of Cable, from what I can understand, that is younger and does not have the virus, so he has kind of all of these abilities at his disposal. There is debate over, is he Cable or is he just like Cable, but they both have the trademark kind of flashing eye thing going on. They have very similar powers. They're both kind of created by the genes of Cyclops and Jean Grey / her clone. So they're basically kind of the same people. Don't get all riled up in the comments if they are or aren't. I know it's confusing, whatever. But those three people all have very powerful abilities and are considered to be Omega level, or potential to be Omega level. And then the last one I want to talk about today is one that somehow slipped through the cracks when I made my first video. He's very obviously Omega level, and one I just didn't find in my research until now. They call him Mr. M, but his real name is Absalon. He was growing up in Belgium, and he had his first manifestation of his powers when there was this bully, and he turned him inside out, which is very traumatic for a kid to do, right? Like, crap, I just turned someone inside out. Some of the things he can do: he can turn matter into energy and back. Crazy. He can create nuclear-powered explosions in the palm of his hand. He can speed up someone's ability to heal themselves. He can become intangible if he wanted to, or he can make others intangible. He can turn people's mutant abilities on and off. And he can create lesser life forms, or he can forcefully make life forms evolve. So those are all crazy abilities. When you're comparing things like that to Storm, it's a no-brainer that some of these people have powers that, yeah, Magneto's powerful, Storm's powerful, but this guy can create life, evolve life, become intangible, turn people into or out of mutanthood. Crazy things. He eventually evolved to the point of not needing a physical body anymore. So, as far as I know in the comic books now, he's just energy. They haven't seen him since then. So, super powerful, definitely Omega level, just somehow missed him on my first video. So, that's it. I think I got to most of the people that a lot of people wanted to talk about. But what are your thoughts? I mean, this is a hotly debated topic. The writers of the comic books don't give us a lot to go off. There's not a handy guide of what does it mean to be Omega or who is Omega. So this is all about discussion. So if you have instances of these characters doing Omega level things, definitely put them down there. You know, tell me what you searched for, or tell me, like, I read this series and they did this. There's stuff that, you know, I'm not an expert. No one can know everything that happened in these comic books for the past 80 years. So let's talk. Are there still people I missed that you think should be Omega level? Let's talk it out. So thanks for watching. Check out my other videos. We have a lot of other discussions going on that people are debating about, so it's super fun. And make sure you head over to I'mYourTargetDemographic.com. I write movie reviews, video game stuff. I talk about stuff just like this. So hopefully you subscribe. Hopefully you're talking in the comments. Thanks for watching.